Another concerning report from the Institute of Public Affairs released overnight showing that we are ranking pretty badly in economic terms. In terms of the world's most resilient economies, we have fallen from 20th place, from first place to 20th place. We were number one in 2004. We've also dropped 15 places on economic competitiveness. We've dropped from 21 to 52 on quality of energy infrastructure as well. Let's discuss it now. Deputy Director of the IPA, the Institute of Public Affairs, Daniel Wild. And as always on a Monday, Former Resources Minister, LNP member for Hinkler, Keith Pitt. Well, Daniel, 1 to, 2020, pretty shocking fall. It's not the only report. There's plenty out there to say we're doing poorly in economic terms, but this is pretty damning.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. It's exactly as you've outlined on all major policy areas. Australia is going backwards and fast. And the question is, well, why does competitiveness matter? Well, if you can't compete, you can't make and you can't produce. And if you can't produce things that have value in the world, then there's no wealth to pay for our social services, our schools, our roads and hospitals and so forth. And we're seeing a dramatic deterioration in our productive capacity of our economy. And at the same time, as you know, Peter, as our supply side is going backwards, the government is cranking up the demand side with record migration, committed to 1.5 million more migrants over the next 5 years, which would be the biggest surge in our nation's history. And even the Reserve Bank has said, look, if your productivity is going down and your population is going up, you're going to have inflation, cost of living problems and high interest rates. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
And of course, the OECD too, Keith Pitt, gave us the worst result, the worst report card in terms of cost of living. We've dropped faster and further than anyone else over the last 12 months.
Well, the only question here is what's changed, Peter? Well, you have a Labor government. And we see wage increases that aren't keeping up with inflation. We see inflation continuing to increase. We see the cost of living, whether it's food or electricity or gas or fuel, continue to go up. And who's paying for it? Well, it's the Australian people. And we've seen in the Parliament even today, there's just not much interest from the Labor government about how to help the Australian people. And they are really doing it tough right now.
And what about the calls today, Daniel, from Chris Minns in New South Wales? He says he wants federal taxpayers to pay for the policing in relation to all these pro-Palestinian rallies.
Well, it's passing the buck, Peter. I mean, why is it that governments could lock literally millions of Australians in their homes for months, but apparently they can't stop these protests? It doesn't make sense. This is not a practical issue. This is not a dollars and cents issue. This is a moral issue. And many of our political leaders lack the moral clarity and courage to take this on. I think Australians are looking at this, and exactly as John Howard has said, and exactly as you've written about, Peter, in your recent column, this is raising serious questions about the future of multiculturalism in this country when we see social cohesion breaking down and a lack of this clear moral clarity from our government. Australians are waking up and saying, I don't know what country I live in anymore. This should not be happening. And we need a clear guidance from government that this must end.
Quick one, Keith. A report out today from the Gas Appliance Manufacturers Association. The ban comes in on gas on new connections in Victoria from the 1st of January. They're saying it's going to cost 1,300 jobs in our industry.
Well, if there's no gas and there's no exploration and you ban gas appliances, Victoria will be cooking with coal, Peter, because that's where it'll come from. Because I'll guarantee you there's no offshore wind farms coming. The people will oppose them. They are collapsing around the world. They are not economically viable. They're not technically feasible. And in Victoria, you'll have more coal-fired production, you'll have more electricity demand, and that's what will power Victoria.
Jen's got to leave it there. Thank you for your time.